For too long, we've lived in the socially constructed narrative that only the best, most talented, or the most hardworking can have an extraordinary creative career. So we better get our heads down and hustle. But what if every one of us can have an extraordinary creative career? And the way to get there is not to erase who we are and what we want in the aimless pursuit of success, but rather the exact opposite. And that's exactly what we explore on here on this podcast. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Everyday Talent Podcast. I'm your host, Betty. So today, you're in for a treat. And the topic of today is very near and dear to my heart. Some of you might not know, but before I was a coach, fundraising consultant, and filmmaker, I was a student in cinema. My undergraduate degree was in cinema studies, meaning I was not trained to become a filmmaker, but rather a film critic or a film curator. And for a while, I did partially do like part of my job as a film curator. So I got a real glimpse of what that job was like. And what I noticed was that there's this such a huge gap between the public's perception of what a film curator does and what the life looks like, and what actually goes on beyond the red carpet for film curators. It is definitely one of the most energy demanding and at the same time energy fulfilling role, and the sector has a long way to go to support film curators. I have long admired this profession and the colleagues that take up this job in curating for different festival, especially for those who are advocating for perspective unseen and perspective that are historically marginalized. And so that's why I'm super excited and honored to be speaking to today's guests. They are two curators and arts leaders in the field, Lucy Mukerjee and Shakira Refos. As you will hear in this episode, both of them have an impressive career in film curation, curating everything from grassroots film festivals to larger and prestigious film festivals such as the Tribeca Film Festival. They are also both leaders in advocating for queer and BIPOC curators. What you're going to hear is a very candid conversation about what it's like to work as a film curator and their advice for people entering the field. Without further ado, here's our conversation. Welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Talent Podcast. So today is a very, very special episode because rather than having one guest for the interview, we have two guests here. I'm joined by Lucy and Shakira. Welcome.
Thanks
Hi
for
there.
having
Yeah, so why don't you both each introduce yourself, what you do to the audience? Let's start with Shakira.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me, Betty. It's a nice way to break up the afternoon and be here. So my name is Shakira Refos, and I work full time at the California Film Institute. Our organization has a full time year round theater in San Rafael in Marin, California. We also produce two film festivals: Docklands Film Festival, that's about to start in May here, and the Mill Valley Film Festival, which will be going into our 46th festival this October. And then I also moonlight for Tribeca Festival as associate programmer of documentaries.
Amazing. And over to you, Lucy.
Hi, I'm Lucy Mukerjee. I'm a film curator and producer. Um, I've been working in this space for the last 2 decades, and previous roles have been at Tribeca, where Shakira and I collaborated, at Outfest, Newfest, Tasvia, Doc Leipzig, among many others. And I'm also the co-founder of the Programmers of Color Collective.
Awesome. It's interesting because like whenever I talk to curators such as yourself, like you always wear many hats and work for many different festivals. And that's part of kind of the intention or the impetus behind this episode. Just to share with the audience as well, like I myself have a film studies background and I remember graduating from it, like almost everybody from the class wants to become a film programmer. And whenever I go back to school now and like talk to students, they always ask me, like, you work in a film festival. I want to be a film curator. What is it like? So can you tell us a bit, like, what is the life like as a film curator and programmer? What does that mean to be having this profession?
It's
Who
very
wants to go
funny
first?
how
Yeah,
many people are sort of bewitched by the idea
yeah.
of
Be
program
rich is a good word.
because it's a lot of binge watching, like literally from the moment you open your eyes till the moment you go to sleep, you're watching submissions. And I would say like three-quarters of those are really bad films, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's like probably 75% of the job. And then the rest of it is like writing up notes for the film guide for the website, and then crafting your Q&A questions and prepping to be on stage and connecting the filmmaker with the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Shakira,
think
what did you
Shakira?
say? Did I miss
yeah,
anything?
I think that what I like about programming is like it's a if it's done well, if you're working for an organization who is doing things well, then it can be like a really cool collaborative process. You know, you get to
Mm-hmm.
work with a group of people and kind of decide on what is this going to look like how can we put a bunch of these programs together and make like a cohesive festival. And I think the coolest part about being a programmer for me is like kind of extracting the themes and subjects and ideas and nuance from each film and trying to figure out like what kind of audience conversation can be cultivated, whether that be like a Q&A, a talk back, or a panel, or like some other sort of activity. So along with like, I work with students in the education space a bit in California, and I always tell them that I watch movies for a living. Like, how cool is that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Along with that, just being a lot of fun. Also, just making sure that you're working for some of these institutions who've been around for a really long time and have like a certain level of prestige. And I'm always just such a huge fan of everyone like killing their idols and really just like, yeah, all these big festivals are really cool, but actually there's like great work being done in like other smaller festival, other smaller organizations. And sometimes you just got to push for kind of like what you
Mm-hmm.
feel is the right thing, and taking my role as like I'm a gatekeeper, and I take that
Mm-hmm.
really, seriously, and it keeps me humble to really like keep that seriously, because people are like, oh, I want to be a programmer too. Like, how do you like, you get kind of pedestalized. And I think that's just like
Mm-hmm.
the opposite of how most people should want to approach the work.
Mm.
I always add to that I think Shakira and I are doing a very particular kind of curation, which is
Yes.
curation as a form of activism, as a form of community building. And not everyone is approaching festival programming in that way. So
Right.
that's kind of an angle where I think the two of us connect.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's like valuable to have both of you here because I love that piece that you mentioned. There's a lot of power that a curator has in terms of what you choose to showcase at a festival. And so, whether it's a prestigious festival or a small festival, there's still like that gatekeeping aspect. Shakira?
I think it's really important for people who decided they want to go into program to really figure out what their approach is, because I think that you can in this space do a lot of great work, and you can also be responsible for a lot of damage. So it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
pick what you want to do. And for myself and for Lucy as well, I think impact is kind of like the main approach from how we look at film. Or maybe I don't know, I should speak for myself, but I think Lucy, that's what you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier.
So, what drew you personally, both of you, to programming and this kind of specific lens of doing programming and advocacy?
I think I remember very clearly seeing Kim Yutani presenting screenings at Outfest. It must have been like 20 mid 2000s, I guess. And I was just really moved by how connected she felt to the work that she was introducing and moderating. Um, and it didn't really click as something that I could do until much later, but that moment is very like vivid in my mind, even though many years has passed. So I think that was one piece, and then also like being in a theater and realizing like that um, you are sharing identities with everyone in the room, whether it's a queer audience or an audience of color. Like that's a very profound experience as well. So I think both of those things contributed to me being interested in this field, and then it was like the opportunity opened up, so I was able to step into it.
Awesome. And
Yeah, I
Shakira?
think that my way was not super traditional. I didn't go to film school.
Mm,
I went to college to become a history teacher, actually, and I did that for a little bit. And I did some museum work, and I really hated that. Um,
mm,
even though there was like a place for my voice there, I didn't want to
mm,
be there. And then I just went to my local film festival, and they were hiring like a theater operations gig, and I had gone to a performance arts high school, so I knew how to stage manage. I was like, oh yeah, I could do that. And then like as I watched, first time I'd ever been to a film festival. Now as I watched everybody do their job, I was like, I could do that. I was like, wait, I could do that too. Like supposed
yes.
to do stuff better than what I'm watching go down. Just like being really observant and
Hmm.
thinking this could be a career for me. This is just like I have a friend who says like wherever Shakira goes, there's always a party that's going to take place there. Like eventually, always been super involved in producing events and just like watching people have a good time. So it feels like there was just like different parts of my life kind of culminated, and then I found the film festival space, and it just like worked perfectly.
Mm. I love that you two have like different entry point, and like when being asked the question, you can like kind of track back that moment. Would you say that the career or the path of film programmer match your expectation, or has it surprised you in good way or bad way?
I think I entered this field quite naively. I remember saying that when I landed the director of programming role at Outfest, I remember telling everyone that I met, this is my dream job.
Oh,
Um,
yes, yeah.
and it was, but it was also like too much work for one person. It was like many jobs put
Yeah.
under one hat, which was, yeah, it was a incredible responsibility and like ridiculous expectations on the part of the board and the organization, because it could have been like a job done by like 5 to 10 people. um,
Right.
yeah, so I would say I've come down to earth since then.
Mhm,
I think that yeah, when I first came into it at Sarasota Film Festival, it's a small organization, so as much as I learned there, I was like at one point landed a director of education job. But when you're working at small festivals like that, it's like you're not just working on education programming or curriculum. You're also doing your own marketing. You're doing your own theater operations. You're doing your own negotiations. Sometimes you're searching for your own sponsorship. So that's exactly what Lucy was saying. You have like you wear many different hats. Fortunately, I work for an organization now that is really well resourced. So I just get to kind of do the job that I love to do, and focus on that. But I think something that, I'm not going to name any names because, you can just look at my LinkedIn and figure it out for yourself, that I landed in this space where I thought everybody, as a contractor, and I was like, oh, everybody here is going to be so brilliant, and everyone's going to know so much and know so much about film. And landed in like a community programming space, and I felt so deceived. I had stars in my eyes about where I was gonna be, and people just had like they didn't have like the intellectual kind of depth in talking about community spaces that I thought I was going to find there. And so that's one thing and when I say kill your idols, I say that not just in theory, like I learned that by example. The best thing I can do is just focus on like what I love to do and know what I do well, and like work people who are as passionate as I am about the same space, and like carve out those spaces for myself, as opposed to like thinking like, oh, these other people are going to teach me so much. It doesn't work that way.
Hmm. I love that you both like kind of mentioned the challenges and I know that like now you've like kind of come to your own journey about it, and like it sounds like it's containing one answer on an interview like this, but I'm sure you've gone through quite a process to reconcile with some of those things. And if I may add my own perspective, like having worked in film festival, I know how much work that is. And I also know that like curator is one of the most rewarding, but also one of the most precarious role in the industry. Uh, can you comment a bit more about like your thoughts on like this profession as itself and its state in the industry, and what's potentially what support that programmers, especially BIPOC or queer programmers, need? Loaded question, I know.
What do we need? I think we need full time, permanent, well paid
Mm.
positions.
Yeah.
Shakira's living the dream right now with one of those.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it sounds straight,
It's a real
it sounds
thing.
simple, but
Mm.
it's like hard to come by.
Yeah, people don't understand really like having to explain how this circuit works. And it sounds like a lot of fun being on the road and going from place to place, and to a certain extent it definitely is. But what people don't understand is that's why the pedestalization of roles like this are so interesting to me, because it's like, oh my god, you're a curator, like, yeah, I don't have insurance. um
Yes,
so
it's a
I
real thing. Yeah, yeah.
so it's like watching people really trying to find a place for themselves where they're really cared for, where they're prioritized, and not just as curators. I'm just as a
Mhm.
festival staff in general. Um, I would think that it's getting better, but I don't. Lucy, is it getting better? And
I don't
I don't know.
know. I
Mm.
mean, there are a handful of arts organizations that are taking steps to show that they care about their team,
Mhm.
but there are many, many, many more that just are under resourced and understaffed and um, don't have the ability to think on that level. They're just getting through each day and getting through their deadlines. And then there's the well resourced organizations that don't even care.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I think that like what's hard to for like board members and people with power, eds, or
Mhm.
presidents, vice presidents, sometimes what's hard for them to see sometimes is what goes on the ground. So I actually
Yes.
suggest people. Sorry.
Yeah, I was echoing with yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that what could be really important for someone to do if they want to get into this industry, like, you'd be real lucky if you land a film festival and immediately become a programmer of any level, coordinate. Like, usually you work your way up from some sort of admin position to an associate position to that. But actually, what is like cooler than that is to like work as a venue manager, work as a theater operations person, work as a volunteer, or like or if it's a privileged thing to be able to be a volunteer, but try to find different roles. You'll create a really cool network for yourself, but also you will learn what kind of like the needs of the people that you're working with are, which is sometimes when people at higher level positions have seemed to have just completely like lost sight of. Yeah, you can have a whole crew come in and work this festival, but are you providing them food? Are you providing them housing? Are you providing them with the appropriate salary? If you can't cover those things, And then just like advocate for each other, and advocate for yourself, and really feel out what the best, because the issue will be turnover. If they don't
Right.
take care of their staff, there's going to be a lot of turnover, and that means the festival is going to have a lot of questions before you can even get to the like, what, why are we here, or what's the theme of the festival. It can be quite frustrating if you're not well resourced.
Yeah,
Ah,
and
I
that
like
that
that. Mhm.
starting from scratch every year with
Yeah.
staff who are green makes things really difficult. But that's exactly the result of like not taking care of your team.
Yeah. I like that, because like the care for people where you're speaking to is an organization culture and value, right? So working collaboratively with the team, they advocating for each other with like not just programmer to programmer, but the team in general should be taken care of. Um, I really like that perspective. Can you speak a bit about like kind of like what have been your own personal milestones or challenges on the way as you advance your career? Because I know both of you have like now worked or curated for different festival now. Like if someone was to enter this profession, it's like what can they expect after they get some initial success, like they now landed one or two programming gig? What now?
Mine's all ego based, really.
Oh, let's talk about that.
No, it's actually like it's ego based, but it's actually more therapeutic than that. Where it's like, it's, if someone wants you to come either curate or like jury for them, it's kind of like has this way of canceling out a bit of that imposter that lives inside everyone. It's like, I was like, oh, you guys think I'm cool. Oh, you like what I think? Actually, really, like someone from outside of your world is validating your voice or your perspective. And I think especially when, you know, being black, being queer, an immigrant, um, sometimes it's easy to be like, oh, am I like doing too much? Am I pushing too hard? Is this perspective on this film really, are people going to understand? So then when your voice is needed or asked about or asked for, it feels very much like, okay, I can follow my instinct, and it it can be good, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, because we go to a film festival, we think this is a curated list of films, and like, and we also now have, I think, like more understanding that like it speaks to the programmer's advocacy,
Mm.
and we never think about what you just talk about. Shakira is fascinating. We never think about the person also needs to build kind of trust on themselves in the journey of becoming that person. It's a little bit meta. Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of the thoughts that came up when you asked this question, Betty, was you think as a curator doing like multiple gigs throughout the year, kind of cobbling together your income, you think what you want is a director of programming role or some sort of like senior position in this field, but actually the higher up you get, the less programming you get to do. So if you're managing a team of programmers, you're not necessarily going to have the time to be watching submissions and involved in all of those discussions. Um, there's going to be sort of a remove between you and the films because you're doing a lot of like um, personnel stuff, a lot of admin stuff, and also
HR.
like senior
Yeah.
team conversations about like marketing and I don't know development, fundraising. Um, Even if you are still on the programming side, if you're like the at the top of that programming pyramid, for
Yes.
example, also artistic director again, yeah, the less kind of impact really you can have on what the films are going to say that year. Like what are the themes? Um, what are the messages that you want to uplift? Because you won't have been able to watch everything, which you can do. When Shakira and I were watching for Tribeca, we were watching hundreds and hundreds of films. We were just like and from beginning to end, like I came from filmmaking, so I have a deep respect for anyone who's finished a film like that. That's a miracle. So I always watch submissions in their entirety, and yeah, when you're sort of finally given what you think you want, which is one of those big titles, big fancy festival programming titles with a permanent year-round position, often that means you don't get to have that kind of hands-on relationship with the work. Um,
That's so true. Yeah, I see, Shakira, you're nodding. Do you want to add to that? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about like sometimes sometimes when you're in festival, like when you're in the festival, like getting ready to open, like in 2 weeks or something, you're like in the thick of it, or a month away from it. I think you can get, it becomes your world, you know, and it's kind of hard to like. Sometimes I find myself walking down the street and looking at people and being like, they have no idea there's a film festival happening right now, and it's like all I think about, kind of.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but it's a small industry ultimately. There's lots of little festivals, but there's lots of small festivals, not little festivals, small festivals. But it's a small industry, and we all kind of like know each other or have heard of each other, probably,
Yeah.
most of us. So I think that just as something for people who want to get into this to understand is just to set some maybe like really realistic goals for yourself, and don't be kind of like blinded by the red carpet flashing lights and prestige of it all. Like, there's maybe one photo on the internet of me on a red carpet, because it's like after everything, like I do not want to be there. And it is kind of like just the reality of how difficult the scope of work is when you're getting ready for a festival. It's just, you have to really have like a solid foundation mentally, and to, make sure that everybody in your family is connected with your needs, because you will just be gone for weeks at a time.
yeah,
Maybe
Yeah.
that's a
realistically, but
really
That's real.
true insight.
Yeah. So I have like follow-up questions with both of what you said. So let's start with like what Shakira said. Like how like so one of my biggest questions: how do you both manage your energy? Because I have to tell you, when I used to program East Asian programming for Real Asian Film Festival years ago, I went to I think one or two overseas festival a year, and I was exhausted. uh, and like you said, Shakira, like that, like at the end of the day, the last thing that I would think about is getting a photo with a celebrity on the red carpet.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
care. uh, and, and so going on this, like, year after year, festival after festival, what's your secret sauce in like managing your energy?
I would say napping. That's my superpower. I can take a nap at any moment.
The guests on this podcast have the commonality of liking napping, I can share.
I do remember, like, in between screenings, in between intros at Outfest one year, I remember going down into the parking lot of the Directors Guild and just getting in my car. And it was hot. This is June or July. And just taking a
LA,
20-minute
yeah.
nap before my next intro.
Yeah. Napping in the cinema. No guilt. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Like, I've napped like under tables, like on random sofas. I think, but like, yeah, finding time to sleep is good, but I think in general, having kind of like a base understanding of like what your needs are, and really being firm around your boundaries around that. Like, yeah, I want to do 20 Q&As in a day. Of course, if you ask me, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? I would probably like to, but like, what is it going to take from me to run around from, you know, 5 blocks here, 20 blocks there, especially if you're in bigger cities, to actually manage all that. So I think being realistic with your being just realistic with the energy that you have, having good boundaries around what people ask you to do and want you to do, and also lots of psychedelics for me.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, like, it speaks to like what you said earlier, like building a support system from
Yeah,
people of you, whatever that you need.
yeah,
Yeah, I
but
mean, I've had partners come and bring my partner come bring me my like a meal because I haven't eaten in 8 hours and I have to go and do have an intelligent conversation with a filmmaker on stage. So like having like your loved ones like give you bring you what you need is very important.
Sustenance. Yeah.
yeah, I've had a conversation with someone where I tell this story sometimes where we were reflecting on like our first festival together where they were, we were in relationship and it was our first festival together as, and I also think that fest staff members, I think their partners should have a support group. Like there should be something on the internet for them as like resources on how to like
You're
help
right.
us alive. But I remember talking when I was like, oh
It's a
yeah,
good idea.
it
Yeah.
wasn't that bad. We had a great time. And she was like, Shakira, you didn't make eye contact with me for 10 days. And I was like, oh, really? She was like, yeah. So you have to be able to be honest with yourself and with the people around you about what your capacity is going to look like around a certain time of year because you can just run yourself to the ground.
Mm-hmm. And I know that one of the things that I mean, like again, I was just working in house for one festival, but one of the things that I know, like in terms of boundary and living in this bubble, was that it also kind of costed some friendship. Like some people outside the film world didn't know what's going on with people who work in film festival schedule. Like there were months that I would just be like out, not
Yeah.
available, cannot do
Yeah.
anything else. Uh, and I think that speaks to that, not making eye contact or like, you know, being living in this like community and having your own boundary. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely have to let your friends and family know that they may not hear from you in a couple of months until you like locked the program or come out the other side of the festival, whatever it is. They have
Yeah.
to be good with
Yeah.
that.
I think one time after Sarasota Film Festival, like a few days after the festival closed, or the next day or the day after, I went to Fort Lauderdale to this like beautiful hotel, and we were like really high up. It was like a very fancy situation. And I remember waking up like the first morning and looking at the view, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got to take a picture of this. And then I was like, wait, I don't have to take a picture of anything. I am actually like right here in this, like the different, a different, like I came back to myself out of like a disassociation of having to like present something. I'm like, oh, I'm looking at this. It's me and my body right here. It's like, it takes so long to snap back into like, back into reality.
I love that you share that moment. It's that like sometimes we're in the go go go, especially in this profession. We have literally our body experience.
Yeah, that's really that's really the best way to describe like, or a few of those examples are great ways to describe what the life is actually life. And if you have that kind of personality, if you have that type of character where you kind of like thrive off of that kind of adrenaline, then like this is a good space, but it's not for everyone.
Mm, hmm.
Yeah, I think if you so there's like the operation side, of course, and like you're programming, you're producing an event, and so that takes a certain kind of energy and personality. And then there's also like if you're gonna get joy from being close to the work and watching absorbing as many films as you can, then um, try and like stay focused on roles that can give you that access.
Mm,
I think that I at some point realized that, and so I've been able to kind of dip into different festivals and take on contract roles, and it doesn't pay the rent, but it, it gives you some kind of satisfaction in your work and pride in your work, or it did for me. Um,
Yeah,
I
that's the
think
piece I want to return to. Is that connection to your impact?
mm,
Because like as you said, like in the pursuit of like stability, like I agree with you. Like then, like I think the we all want a full time job. At one point, feel like people make fun of like not make fun, but like they make a comment of like, oh, so and so have a full time job, and like kind of I realize that's kind of like the golden standard in film festival world. But it comes with so much of a mean on things that some people like and some people don't like.
Because then you come to take on sort of the you sort of you begin speaking for the organization that you work for, right? In that like we speak,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
you lose track of yourself in that we.
yeah. Well, also I think in ways that can like, I mean, this sounds really negative. I love the work that we do, and I love the collaborative process, and I really thrive the most when I'm working on projects that are interdepartmental, just to get something cool off the ground for audiences. But there is this kind of sense sometimes of like a trauma bond between staff members that's really fucking
That's
unhealthy,
real and
where we start
unhealthy, but
talking
it's
about
real.
the we, and then it's like you're talking about the family, and then all of a sudden you're in a cult, and you can't leave. Which is just like, let's like, be careful about how much of yourself you save some things for yourself and for your home and for your family. I mean, if you have to take a nap on the under a table at an event, you got to do what you got to do, but you are still the individual there, like Lucy was saying. That is, the brain behind a lot of the presentation, which are the actual films.
Yeah. I was so much with that. I always like never had the language of like trauma bonding, but like film festival staff members do bond quite closely, and we used to joke that like after the festival, there's like a PTSD moment that like people will cry together,
So
get depressed for like 2 months together because of the like adrenaline rush.
Yeah. So in that sense, there is that part where, like, the morning after the festival, you wake up, and if you're not in operations, of course, you have to like. If you're in operations, you have to load out and do a bunch of other stuff.
You're
But
working, yeah, yeah,
you're still working. But where you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, well, so where are we meeting? Like, what's? And everyone's like, no, you, we're done. And you're like, oh, we're not going to brunch or anything. Like, is anyone? What are you guys up to? And then you realize it's over.
that's the danger when, and this is, I'm speaking from having done this, when you make the festival your whole world, then when the
Yeah.
festival's over, you're like, who am I? So
yeah.
I'm now coming out the other side of a sabbatical, having to remember, like, what do I like to do when I'm not working? And it's taken a couple, like, it's been what, 3 months of forcing myself to like not open my computer, not look at my emails, not kind of, because you can keep yourself busy working even if that work is unpaid. We all know that.
Yep.
Yes.
I've been very defiantly saying no to things so I
Yeah.
can recover from that PTSD that you just described.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about that, Lucy, if you may, like that. How has it been taking a break and a sabbatical and having, and like if you like you don't mind I share like a few months ago when I connected, you're like, I'm taking a sabbatical, so like not even a good time for a conversation like this for an interview. And I really respected that. I was like, yes, go take the break that you need. And how has it been going through that experience?
Well, I think when you first reached out, it was last summer, and I said I'm taking a break, and then I very foolishly accepted a position,
Oh, mhm.
which was exactly the kind of position that you both just described, where like at the end of the festival, everyone quit, even the board quit, the board and the staff.
Wow.
Oof. Yeah.
And so I was like drained from other festival work, and then drained upon drained with that. Um, but it's, yeah, this was like an enforced vacation from programming. Um, I think that role, you spoke earlier about like aha moments we've had in our career, and I think that role really like shook me up because I was hired, I realized, for my reputation because of like the other festivals I've worked for, but not for my opinion.
Mm,
So my opinion on the films that we were evaluating didn't matter to the head of the festival, and that was like for a grassroots kind of BIPOC festival, that really shook me up.
Yes.
Um, and forced me to kind of question what I'm doing. But I was able over these months to really identify organizations that I would like to work for, that I do trust and respect, and and just kind of feed myself watching films and conversations with artists whose work I admire. So it's been invaluable. I'll say that.
Yeah. Sounds like quite a healing journey for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shakira, do you have anything to add? I see that you're in deep contemplative mode.
oh yeah, no, I was just yeah, I was definitely thinking about what Lucy was saying about being wanted for your reputation, but then when you then actually show up as that, then it's like, oh, like um,
Hmm.
too
Enough.
much or like too activism focused or too that's like, but it's like, well, you asked me to be here. you
I thought
invited
that was
you
I was higher.
invited
Yeah, I
me.
know. Hmm.
And well, I found that specifically sometimes in like people asking me to be on panels and then being very shocked when I call out, they're one of their sponsors or like one of, like, but this is, you know, like Lucy is saying, like, and I think what we've landed on a few times is not to make the assumption that every organization is going to respect you, but be be what you think it looks like from the outside. Some organizations definitely are and are very stable and have like good politics and good ethics. Some organizations are figuring it out. California Institute is California Film Institute is one of them, and I'm really proud of the work that's being done there. When people are asking questions, understanding that they just don't know everything, and starting from there. But yeah, your value and being seen and being understood for exactly what your politics are and what the impact work is that you want to present, can sometimes feel complicated and a little painful, but you'll ultimately hopefully find the spot that is works for you when you work for them.
Really sounds like we need a guideline for how to trust or like how to like selectively screen the spaces that we choose to put ourselves in.
Yeah, for sure. Like, are they values aligned? What are their ethics? What's their track record? It's not so easy because that stuff is not like, up on the website. What's in print on their website might not actually be reflected in their actions.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Even
Well,
in
I
interview, you might not know. Like that's the
oh
difficulty
yeah,
part. Yeah.
yeah. I think that it's good to ask questions. I mean, there's always, because of the kind of like circuit based staff, there will people will know things. People will have seen things at most festivals, or they'll know someone who has worked there, and I think people will be really honest about like, oh yeah, it's a pretty great experience. They're working on their shit, but you can see they're doing something, or like that was awful. I will never go back there. To like at your own risk type situation. Just make sure that you ask the right questions because there are people out there with information, and there are currently two Instagram groups, like festival staffer and then fest circuit or something, that are kind of like the gossip well for all
Instagram groups,
festival
love that.
information. So it's good to take a look at those too. You can get some real talk there.
Wow,
And there
that's
are
great.
people who are like collecting stories. I'm thinking specifically of Kareem Ahmad, who came out of Sundance. He did inclusion work there and now is leading his own work researching the curatorial field. And I feel like in all of the interviews and conversations that Kareem has been having, I feel like it's sort of zeroing in on who are those few organizations who do have integrity and transparency and accountability. So once you see those kind of beacons of light who are doing work in this field that you feel is authentic and you can appreciate it, then ask like who do you feel, what organizations do you admire? Um,
Hmm.
yeah, get feedback.
Yeah, and I hear the piece about like on the journey, you also get like more clear about who you are and what your values are. It's because it's a funny like sometimes as unfortunate as it is, like we learn from like, oh, that's not my value. That really
Yeah.
sucks,
Oh yeah.
and we learn a bit more about ourselves.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sometimes you find out the hard way, you know.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And that's why it's really important for people who want to get into this space to understand that they're not. It's rare to just like walk into a situation where everything is it's it's not corporate. It's a lot of like creative people. It's a lot of like underfunded. It's a lot of like struggle. So that brings at times can bring the best and the worst out of people. So it's very much like you're not gonna land in the right situation immediately. Like do your research and ask the hard questions.
mm-hmm.
I
It's
think
spunky.
something that I've come to realize is that I really enjoy the chance of positively impacting filmmakers' career trajectories, helping them get an audience and industry attention for their first feature, their second feature, so that then like creates a sustainable career for them and gets them funding for the next one. And that's not necessarily the intention or even side effect of many festivals. Many festivals are just thinking about like headlines and parties, and the actual like impacting a filmmaker's career is not even sort of priority one, two, or three. So if you gotta really be able to identify what makes you tick, what makes you excited about this work, and then go
Yeah.
find other people doing that.
That's like I feel like you just predicted my next question because I was going to say we painted like a pretty like candid picture of the world here, and I'm grateful for both of you of that. So like I was going to ask like what keeps you going, and I think Lucy you started commenting on that support for impacting like bringing opportunity to filmmakers. Like what else? Like what grounds you and keeps you going on this path?
Shakira.
Yeah. As Lucy, I think Lucy like is really considered like really like a master strategist in the work that we do amongst a lot of different people. And I do love seeing a strategy come together. It really like that really moves me, especially when there's people involved. I consider myself most like an audience advocate. I mean, I take audiences like really, really seriously, and I'm always trying to figure out how to enhance any experience of a film going experience or a festival experience for audiences. So, like, love panels, master classes, workshops, in depth conversations is really like, pulling like the pulp from the films and then having like intense conversations about meaning is what is really meaningful to me and what drives me. And also I'm chaotic as hell, so like I appreciate a good few weeks of adrenaline. But the last thing is actually, we have to work, right, because of like the shithole system that we're all a part of. So like
Capitalism.
if I have to work,
Capitalism.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
watch movies for a living, you know? And I get to be like super grateful about that. Like I'm super grateful that this is what I get to do for work, and people trust me with this, with telling them what is good art.
Yeah, I think when I was feeling really drained from having to sort of defend the humanity of queer stories, which was sort of like what it felt like every programming meeting, I would leave so drained and um, just deflated, thinking like, why do I have it? It feels so personal when you're like
Yeah.
championing stories and storytellers who share intersections of your identity. Then when the rest of the room say, no, that's not important, or no, nobody's going to show up for that, you like
Mm,
take it personally. But I stepped away and I did some programming for environmental film festival. And so I was watching and programming films that had like nothing to do with my identity, and that really fed me in a way that I wasn't expecting. It started out as a gig that I was kind of intrigued by, and then it turned into something that was it opened up the curatorial space in a way to me that I think I'd been so zeroed in on queer representation and visibility for the community.
yeah.
And that made me realize, oh, there's more to that. There are other kinds of festivals. It doesn't have to just be this. I can do this. I can use these skills programming other kinds of films.
Mm. What I hear from both of you loud and clear is that love for movies, cinema, and films, continue to ground you and brings you joy and reminds you of like, oh, I get to watch movies for work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I Let's end the conversation on a fun question. If you can say something or give one piece of advice to Shakira, like yourself basically, when you were starting out on this path, what advice would you have given that younger self?
Um, I mean, this is gonna sound awful, but I'm gonna say it anyway because it's the truth. There's not everyone who looks as smart and acts as smart as they are is as smart as they are, and you're smarter than most. And just believe in that, and find the people who are also like on your same wavelength. You don't you I know you don't have to impress anybody. Don't get roped into any of that nonsense.
Love
Follow
that.
your
I love that. Love that. Oof.
I think for me, I grew up in a very conservative household, and the kind of one message that I feel like was drummed into my sister and I was to defer to authority, and usually
Mm,
authority was white and male.
Mm,
And so like I want to shake my teenage self, my 20 something self, my 30 something self. It took a long time to realize that someone who comes in that package doesn't necessarily have your best interest at heart. um, and so now I question everything, and it's
yep,
just taken like 4 decades for me to get to this place. But it's essential in order to look out for yourself, but also to do good work. You have to question everything, question culture, question literally everything that comes your way. So
mhm.
I think that's a message I have to continue to tell myself so I don't forget it.
yep.
Yeah, and now it's recorded here, and I will
That's
send
true.
it your way. I love that those two us message that you sent to your younger self was so personal but also connected. And thank you so much for sharing your personal insights and experience with us today. I'm so grateful and just like so touched by this conversation.
Thank you, Betty. This was great.
Yeah. Thank you for having us. It's always refreshing to be in a space chatting with Lucy. Thank you for connecting us today.
Awesome. I hope you enjoyed this conversation I had with Lucy and Shakira. I'm so impressed by how deep they went in their own reflections and how heartfelt that was like for them to share their insights and also the emotional authenticity they each had on their unique journey as film curator. And if you're someone who is looking to become a film curator or exploring this path, I strongly encourage to consider some of their advice. Do your research, know your values, and be prepared for one of the most rewarding career, and that will also uncover a lot of personal learning for yourself. If you like this episode, I encourage you to continue to subscribe to this podcast on whichever podcast platform you use, or on YouTube, where you can watch the podcast episodes in video format. As well, my one-on-one coaching program is open. In my coaching practice, I coach creators of all disciplines and professions to grow their creative career and practice by embracing who they are. Check out my coaching program and sign up for a discovery call for free today. You are already so creative. I can't wait for all the possibility that you create on your professional path and in your career. I hope to see you in the next episode.